Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We got the whole world represented today, or at least a good portion of around many different time zones. And I'm kind of excited to be here. Although it's cold in Austin and things are shut down. So, but today we're going to be talking about the community initiatives, what's happening around the world from a bunch of different places. Today will be a little bit awkward too, because I wasn't able to go to our studio because the studio doesn't have power, and I don't have power at my house. So I'm at a third-party location, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Welcome to the Venture Outfitter. The whole idea about the Venture Outfitter and the Venture Outfitter Weekly is Tech Ranch has a community of practice. We have this community that we work together as entrepreneurs around the world for solving all the world's problems. And people kind of say, hey, you can't do that. That's not possible. And then when you actually see what's happening with the different entrepreneurs that are connecting in and stuff like that, it's really starting to take hold. And today is going to be great because we have a lot of different countries represented. In a little bit, I'll do a shout out to kind of just represent all the different ones, because I'm really proud that we have such a diversity of people. Thank you to DualWorks. I'm kind of disappointed that I can't work out of the studio today, but DualWorks has an excellent co-working place based in the middle of Austin at 183 Mopac 360. For those of you all that are international, the one thing that I always do a shout out about DualWorks is they're really good about customizing solutions around what you need, because a lot of the international entrepreneurs say, hey, we already have an office at our home office, but we might need some special point of presence. And so that's what DualWorks has. They're a lot more flexible than a lot of the other places in town. And they actually have been really great, because Linda Blackman, who is in Venture Force 17, she's been involved in Tech Ranch for more than a decade now. Just recently had a great one-on-one dinner with her. There's some stuff that's going to be happening. We'll be doing some events this next week. In fact, one of our members is leaving and moving back to Bangladesh from Austin. And so there will be a goodbye dinner that was supposed to happen today, but I'm sure it'll be in the next few days. So if you're interested, just let me know. If you're here in Austin, we'd love to have you there. And great to have DualWorks involved. So if you haven't gotten involved in the Tech Ranch community site, there are lots of different ways of getting involved. If you're not on the community site, make sure that you get involved. You can use this QR code to hop in. There's an application, and really all we're looking for is we want to make sure we know who's getting involved. The idea about the community site is for free, you can get involved in the Tech Ranch community. We just request that you're an entrepreneur that's working on something and that you'll abide by the simple rules that we have in the community. Now, there's another level that I'm about to tell you about that is a kind of a paid for area that's kind of like the gym membership. But truth be told, right now, my biggest concern with what we're doing is we just launched a new piece of community software. I know some of y'all were on the old software and stuff like that. I really like what we're up to with the new platform, because I think it's going to be better for us. But do hop onto that. And then if you're interested in getting involved and having support, the Venture Outfitter program, what this is for $49 a month. And I would consider for people that are in other countries to do some type of discount. But the main thing is for $49 a month, you get access to our core program, a weekly conference call, an office hour, and special attention on your venture. If you're working on your elevator pitch or your investor pitch or your financials, or you want to make sure that you have your venture lined up with your vision, or if you just want to have more access to myself and other entrepreneurial leaders that have scar tissue to donate to you, this is the program to get involved in. We've made it really inexpensive. And the whole idea about that is so that you can get involved in just the practice of working on your venture. And that's what this whole thing is about. So that's the Venture Outfitter program. There's a QR code there as well that will lead you into the pay area and all that sort of stuff. Now, for those of you all that are volunteering as country managers, or that are involved in leading an initiative or are involved in some other significant way on supporting the community, we will sponsor your involvement in this program. So just make sure that you claim that. If you're not actively involved in in some type of leadership position, you can actually, pay for that. If you don't want the distraction, if you think of it as a distraction about being involved in this other way, then we'll have you involved. You can do it either way. You can do it either way. Okay, well, I'm just trying to warm up over here because Austin has been a little bit cold. So coming soon, and the dates, I had moved around the dates on a lot of the different adventures. We've got a lot of different things that are happening. We're trying to get ready for all the, 50,000 people are going to show up for South by Southwest here in Austin. There's going to be a series of different programs about how do you prepare, how do you take advantage of Austin? How do you prepare for it? How do you get ready for it? Whether you're coming here for South by Southwest or something else, the next series of Venture Forth, the next series of VO Weeklies is going to be all about getting prepared for that. We will have some special stuff that's happening with our supply chain company, which is called Venture Connections, which has got a lot of activity happening, especially between the US and Mexico. But beyond that, it's actually done stuff all across Central America, from Canada all the way down to Panama. There's been activities with that. There's also been activities on the supply chain between Germany and Hungary as well. So there's some interesting stuff that can be talked about, on that direction as well. If you're ever wondering when the dates are, and since we have had to move the dates around because of speaker availability, go to techranch.com/events and you can get that. In fact, Jello, we should put that URL on there. That way people stop emailing me and asking, when is that thing? So we always will be publishing all of our events onto the event calendar at techranch.com/events. So please take advantage of that. We're also going to have Eric Weiland, who has been a long-term tech rancher as well. He's a CFO by the drink. He is, what I mean by that is he's a fractional CFO that is going to come in and talk about how to read financial statements and stuff like that. And again, since we've had to move things around for the scheduling and stuff like that based on speaker availability, this will be in the next few weeks. It could even be as soon as next week. We really just had to respond to what the speakers need. But this will be published at techranch.com/events. And so, organizing community initiatives. Today, we're going to hear from a bunch of different community leaders around the Tech Ranch. I might be the guy who started Tech Ranch, but really the thing that makes Tech Ranch special is the community of practice of different individuals. This is kind of like, you might even think about it, for those of you all that have seen open source projects, you might have one man or one woman who starts the open source project, but what really makes an open source software project powerful is everyone that gets involved. And one person might, leverage the technology, like, leverage Linux, which is an open source project, in one way, and someone else leverages it in a different way, and someone else leverages it in a different way. But the common theme is there's this loose connection among us, this loose connection. And that idea is one of the most powerful ideas. It's the idea that I and a handful of other individuals use to really build out the ecosystem, the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Austin. We started an initiative called Bootstrap Austin all the way back to 2003. And for the longest time, that was like, when we got it up to 800 different entrepreneurs, it was the most powerful thing for helping entrepreneurs here. We're going to use that same model. We're just now learning how to do it virtually, where we're working from, Honduras to Uzbekistan to, Manila, Philippines to Mexico. How is it we can build this larger community initiative? And one of the key things that makes this possible is having community leaders that say, hey, this health tech idea, or this mental health tech idea, or this ed tech idea, or this other piece, I want to do something about, and I'm going to, that they're going to lead that area. And so we'll talk about that. I'll report in first, and then we're going to just go around and hear from a number of different people. And just a reminder to everyone, when you talk about the initiative, the most important part, because we are going to use this and dice and slice it up into some videos that can lead other people into the initiatives that you're leading. It could be you're going to talk about your country. You could talk about your initiative. The main thing is give us the soundbite at the beginning of what you're up to, give your name and kind of what you're working on, and then the soundbite. And make sure that each one of you, part of the value of sharing is make sure that people can find you. How do they get a hold of you? I'm going to ask that everyone kind of does that short and sweet, and then we'll actually have questions. And since we have a good studio audience today, we'll actually have the ability to have people interact back and forth. There will be a little bit of interaction about a couple different issues that I know, and because several of our community leaders, like one of them from Hungary and one of them from Central Texas, are going to be talking, and they won't necessarily talk about the whole thing of what they're doing, but a little bit of coordination signals. These loose, if you've ever read the paper, The Power of Loose Ties, part of what we're doing, just like happens in open source projects, is we want to find these loose ties and then follow them and do them individually. And a lot of times people are like, hey, Kevin, we want to make sure you have you involved. Part of the purpose is not having me involved, but taking advantage of the connections with each other. I am a super connector. You can just see on my LinkedIn, connected to tens of thousands of people. And part of the value that I've always had is I've been able to always tap into my network. I want to make sure that the community gets to do that as well. And so that's why we're advertising these different areas. First off, people are talking a little bit about what's happening in Austin. We've had a really bad freeze. In fact, there's more than 160,000 people without power right now in Austin. The thing that happens is when it freezes here, the temperature can go from 74 degrees Fahrenheit, which what is that, like around 23 Celsius, to 0 Celsius or colder, 32 degrees or colder Fahrenheit, within a matter of 3 hours. And so what essentially happened is that happened, and the trees a lot of times weren't able to catch up with us. And so here initially in our home office here in Austin, that where I don't have power at my house and I don't have power at the studio, part of the thing that's happened is a lot of the trees have actually gotten run over. And I mean, the trees have froze so quickly that they collapsed, as you see here. These it's devastated a lot of the trees, which is really sad in Austin because we have such good greenery. But that's kind of what's happening here. The other thing I want to mention, and we're going to have more of a formal announcement about this, is the governor of Kitab, the gentleman that you see standing with me, we're both holding pomegranates. I swear, Kitab, this one district in the country of Uzbekistan, where I was this last October, it's got to be the pomegranate capital of the world. It's just crazy about how large the pomegranates are. They're like Texas-sized pomegranates, if I was to coin a phrase. But what's interesting about Kitab is we're going to be helping entrepreneurs from around the world help Kitab solve a number of different issues in the following areas: everything from tourism, grape and wine production, power generation, including we're looking into solar and battery technology there, water purification, sewage systems, and mining. The idea here is we'll have a much more formal introduction to this project, but part of what's happening is, if you want to solve all the world's problems, you got to go get a bunch of entrepreneurs over here with solutions on one side, and then you have to talk to the people that are like saying, hey, we need to go solve these issues. And so part of what we're going to be doing, and we'll have a more formal announcement about this, but since the February 1st, yesterday, it was the official kickoff of the project. I wanted to get some early information out there because a number of you have solutions in these areas. And there will be other areas that might say, hey, Kevin, I don't necessarily have a solution in one of those areas, but there is these other areas as well. And part of the power of this is, I might be based in Austin, Texas. I might be based right in the middle of the United States, that is. But the truth is that a lot of the solutions that are going to be appropriate for Kitab, this one district, or you might even think, some of you might think of it as a state, but they call it a district. This district of around 300,000 people, they're looking for solutions. And part of TechRanch's role and my role is to just be the connector of saying, hey, around this set of issues, let's make sure we connect different people. So that's why having such a variety of different people involved. Now, there are going to be other projects in Uzbekistan. And if for those of you all don't know about Central Asia, I did a program in October on the VO Weekly when I was there on the other side of the world. I'll just say really quick, I say this to my friends from Mexico because I used to say this about Mexicans. Uzbeks are the nicest people in the whole wide world. And sorry, Mexico, because you know that I love you. I love Mexico and how warm the people are. But I think they're giving you a run for your money on who is the nicest in the whole wide world. And so we'll talk more about that as well. If you want to see that program, I'll ask Jello to link that into the show notes on this one as well. So you can say, oh, tell me a little bit more about Uzbekistan. But most importantly, on the community site, on community.techranch.com, there will be an area specifically about supporting the open call for activities around the Kitab project. And you don't have to formally be invited or anything like that. If you have something to offer, if you want to pay attention, what you'll be able to do in the community software is you'll just be able to go register yourself into that area for free and just say, hey, I want to pay attention to what's happening. And as things are posted there, you'll have an area that you can actually just listen in. And at some point you might say, hey, I've got a solution here. Think of it this way. Essentially, what we're having the community.techranch.com site to be is, for those of you all that have software development backgrounds, we want it to be the GitHub of these type of entrepreneurial projects. And so if you're interested in this or one of the technical areas that is about to be talked about, just make sure that you sign up. Don't send me an email and saying, hey, Kevin, sign me up. No, that won't work. No, just go to the right area and you'll be able to do that. In a little bit, I'll ask that Jello to put a slide in, or actually to bring up his screen towards the end of our talk today so that we can do that. All right, so the black slide is always my reminder to step back for a second. And now I'm going to try to open up my screen. Like I said, I'm on a very, very small screen here. It's great to see so many different people involved. Let's see, we've got Texas, we've got the Czech Republic, we've got at least 3 sites in Mexico, we've got Honduras, we've got Hungary, we've got Uzbekistan, we've got a Colombian that I think lives in the United States right now, but he's from Colombia here. We've got an Italian as well, and Washington State's in the house, Central Texas in the house. What I want to do is I would like to go around and hear from each one of you. The easiest way to do this is for you to raise your hand digitally and raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to speak. And if you guys, if no one raises their hand, I'll actually call on you guys. But what I'd like to hear is, I'd like to hear from you. Okay, Jorge just raised his hand from Guadalajara, Mexico. Come on and tell us, what are you working on, Jorge? And how's it going today in Guadalajara?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. It's a sunny, warm day in Guadalajara. Sorry for you that your trees are falling. Actually, what I want to share is, well, first of all, that we are working really hard to make our stadium sustainable for the World Cup that is going to be in the Mexico, US, and Canada in 4 years. So that's keeping us busy. But we also want to, or we're in the process to continue our adventure in the US, by our services of natural ventilation through computer fluid dynamics. The whole idea for this is that we can make a path for old office standard buildings that are all around American cities and transform them into housing with passive strategies. And passive means that even if you don't have power, you can have a healthy home. Maybe it's not going to be perfectly warm, but it's going to be healthy. And that's one of the big concerns that we got from Texas from last year.
Yeah, let's tell a little bit about what you guys do. So Jorge has an architectural design company, but what's really great about what they do is, especially during COVID, he was able to go into different buildings and say, hey, this is how you can make the building through a passive methodology more secure, or more secure from a standpoint of dealing with viruses and stuff like that, just by its design. And so that's what he generally does. But now you're actually involved in the World Cup stadium, and also you're involved in doing this for turning buildings that have been used as offices, like here in Austin. Facebook just said, we're not going to use 700,000 square feet of office space. Google did something similar as well. You're able to take those type of office spaces and turn them into housing. Say a little bit more.
Sure. Well, actually, we're looking for stranded buildings, not the ones that the tech companies are not going to use, because usually those are premium spaces that it's very likely that they're going to be used as office building by other companies. But almost 40% of all office buildings that are already built in the US are already unoccupied, are stranded, and they are not going to have a use as offices because they don't comply with any codes. We've been working with some firms and with some professionals in Texas to find a way that the Inflation Reduction Act and historic preservation tax exemptions make these stranded buildings really attractive for being transformed into housing. And what we are doing, this is in Mexico, but also in other parts of Latin America, is making computer fluid dynamics that can mimic how the wind is going to work with different passive strategies, including thermal updrafts and solar chimneys and a lot of building science technologies that we have implemented in the past 15 years in order to allow a housing unit to be financially profitable in a building that it's already stranded, and especially to make it healthier and resilient with this kind of events. We know that especially during summer, there will be power shortcuts because of the excessive use of air conditioning. But if you are in a very tight sealed home in Texas and you are without power, please leave or open your door, because it's very likely that if you turn on the stove in that house, in a couple of hours, the air is going to be poisoning in that house. That's CO2, NOx, and other gases that are coming from methane that is in the house. And we know that a lot of people are going to be tempted to turn on the stove to get some heat in their house. So it's a death trap in Texas. My brother lives there, and they are out of power. And I strongly advise not to turn their stove or to open the windows. That is even worse, to keep the warm in. So we want to make this housing, attainable housing for families in the south of Texas, in the center of the city, and with resilience. So what we're looking for in Texas is, if you know an owner of a building or someone that is related with the owner of a building, especially if it's below or it was built before the 90s, it's very likely that it's already stranded. And if it's a building that has historic value, that means that it's built before the 70s, you can get tax exemptions and make it really profitable for the owner, transforming this into housing. So
how do people find you? Just sounds like a great call to action. How do they find you? Like, what's the best way for anyone that's listening, especially,
sure.
And everyone know, as we talk about this, some of the people that are going to be hearing you guys are going to be on the podcast. So make sure you actually spell out your email address or something like that. Best way for them to get a hold of you, Jorge?
Sure. My email address is jorge.lopez@eosis.energy, but it's easier through our LinkedIn website, EOSIS Inc. That's
EOSIS is EOS. Go ahead.
IS. Yes. EOSIS. Yes. .energy. And in LinkedIn is EOSIS Inc.
Perfect.
That way.
All right. Well, perfect for kicking us off. Thank you very much, Jorge. Let's we'll stick around because I'm sure you're going to get some other questions. We'll have some stuff that'll happen in the chat, I'm sure. And then naturally, like if you're representing, say, if Kabir that's in Uzbekistan sees some opportunity back and forth there as well, obviously we want to create those kind of interactions. So that's perfect. Thanks, Jorge. Who's next? Who's going to raise your hand? And we'd like to get you onto this. Ignacio and I just met this last week when I was speaking earlier this week to a group based out of Mexico for healthcare applications and stuff like that. Ignacio, what are you working on?
Okay, so the last time that we speak, we talk about writing or thinking about elevator pitch. So I was really keep going and having new ideas on how it would work. And I think that I have my 30 word speech on it.
Hit us with it.
So yeah, so well, I'm Ignacio Andrade. I'm from Mexico. We are working on some different solutions for medical hospitals, but the one that we are working now, like in this moment, is a medical data repository to facilitate the interoperability of the hospital systems. So I think that I have the idea more with more structure, and I don't want to leave anything out there, but I'm working on how to establish that.
So one of the things that you said the other day on Tuesday when we were interacting is you focus on babies and moms, though, right? Is your initial entry strategy?
Yes. Actually, that's our first users. We want our first users to be new moms, the first new moms, because we think that there's people that, well, these users are used to use technology. They are really looking for everything on the internet. They have access to this information, and they want their babies to be the more with the more medical information that they could. So that's why we want to focus on those people.
So tell me, are you guys already deployed? Or are there any moms using your application at this point yet?
Also, here is David. We want to ask him what he thinks about our prototype. We already have it running it, and maybe next week, on the next few weeks, we are gonna have this prototype already running with some new moms.
Got it. In fact, Jello, bring David Potas into the screen. And David, I know that you have your own company, but then there's the application, like the group that you had me speak to, just so people have a sense, especially because there's opportunities for collaboration across the different things. What's the name of the organization that you're running with all these different hospitals across Mexico?
Hey, Kevin. So the name of the organization, it's, let me first say it in Spanish because it's a Mexican organization. It's the Aceleradora de Emprendimiento para Ecosistemas de Salud. It translates to the accelerator for entrepreneurship in healthcare ecosystems, specifically for Mexico. Basically, this is an initiative from the Mexican Hospital Consortium, that it's a group of 52 private independent hospitals that range all across from Mexico, from Tijuana to Cancun. And the consortium has different objectives in terms of business, new business development, exchanging information, consolidated purchasing. But at the same time, it has a really strong objective in terms of digital transformation. And with that project in mind, our objective is to build a private ecosystem. We know that there's, like you mentioned, Kevin, at the beginning of this session, we know there's a lot of solutions out there that have been that are being developed by entrepreneurs like Ignacio. And what we're trying to do with the consortium and through this program is to find those solutions and help entrepreneurs to understand the nuances and the particularities of the Mexican healthcare system, specifically for the private sector. So Ignacio is part of this new program that is a group of 10 startups, 7 from Mexico, 2 from Chile, and 1 from Argentina. And we have been working with them in understanding, like I mentioned, the nuances of the Mexican healthcare system.
Well, and one of the important things that I'll say, a lot of times, back for our US-based listeners, some people would be, actually, I'm just say it this way. I won't hold back. US healthcare is so broken that I'm convinced that someone like in Mexico or some other part of the world is going to start putting together the systems that disrupt US healthcare. It's going to have to be built someplace else because we gold plate everything in the United States, and you can't get like decent healthcare for inexpensive, here. So David, you got to solve the problem there so you can actually solve it here too. Tell us a little bit about your startup as well, because you're not only involved in the association you just mentioned, but you're also involved. You have your own company. Tell us about it.
Sure. So our startup is called Apollo Health. It has been pivoting a little bit in the last couple of years, specifically with projects that we have been linked to with this organization, the Mexican Hospital Consortium. And what we do is that we help healthcare providers to attract, serve, and retain more patients. And basically what we're doing is to help them to build a better relationship and gain access to better healthcare. And what I mean by that, we have been pivoting in the last couple of years is that Apollo Health has been transformed into Ava Salud, that is basically a virtual hospital service. And with Ava Salud, our main goal, like I mentioned before, but more specifically, is how can we provide better access to healthcare and different services. And I mean, I will have to explain a little bit more about the particularities here in Mexico, but basically, if you start to map, the patient journey, a normal patient journey, you'll see that there are a lot of gaps in the Mexican healthcare system that either don't have a service or they don't have any type of connectivity or access for the patient in terms of connecting their services from primary care to second level to hospitalization. Everything is independent here in Mexico. So what we're trying to do is for the patient to belong to an ecosystem so that he or she can navigate to the complexities of the healthcare system and help them understand, what are the next steps in their healthcare, what are recommendations, and just be involved in that patient journey.
That's beautiful. So tell me a little bit more. Is there any calls to action, or certainly make sure that you and then Ignacio, right after David's done, how do people get a hold of you? Any requests, calls to action, or just contact information that you'd like to share? Yes,
and this is regarding also what you just mentioned about the cross-border initiative. Is that we're trying to, how can we adapt this idea, not this idea, but this project that we have here in Mexico to help immigrants in the United States. So this is something that we are still studying and still finding ways to enter the U.S. market regarding healthcare services and U.S. laws. So that's something that if anybody has anything that we can read or just get in contact with, so that we can have some type of interactions, I really appreciate that. And you can send me an email to david@cmhac.com. That is the webpage for the Mexican Hospital Consortium.
Well, and make sure that for everyone that shares contact information, what we'll do is we won't put the contact information on the YouTube site, but we'll put it inside of there's an area for the VO Weeklies inside of the community site. We'll put all your contact information there as well. And then Jello will link you into to your profile. So make sure that you have profiles on the community. The only reason we don't do it on the YouTube site is because, robots can grab that and then spam the hell out of you. So but yeah, make sure that you all share that into the meeting chat so that he has that. That's beautiful, David. I'm convinced that both in the United States and other parts of the world, your virtual hospital concept, which is, by the way, not just telehealth for everyone that's thinking, it's like telehealth solves one part, but the virtual hospital concept goes through all those different layers. That's why it's so critical. And the idea that you could actually do it for immigrants or especially refugees, like the most vulnerable, because, you have this platform called, like you get it phones into people's hands. That's pretty powerful. That's really powerful about what it could imply long term. Ignacio, go ahead. Or
exactly,
David, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna compliment that. It ranges from primary care to help the patient navigate, but also services from post hospitalization, chronic disease, and wellness, and just helping the patient stay healthy.
Perfect. In just a second, let me give Celia a nod just so she knows that I'm going to call on her in just a second. But Ignacio, before we hear from Celia, I'd like to make sure, how do people get a hold of you if they want to find a little bit more about your system, especially for helping moms and babies with their health records?
Yeah, sure. So we are on LinkedIn also as HC ProMedical. Our webpage is hcpromedical.com. And well, my mail, it's Andrade@hcpromedical.com. So we are really on every platform, also TikTok, if you want to look for us. And we are kind of getting in touch and also always posting things and everything about our job. So hope someone come to us. Maybe we can have new ideas,
That's perfect. Well, I look forward to hearing more about what you, Ignacio, and David are doing. Thank you all for sharing. And it's healthcare seems to be one. I mean, since it's so fundamental, right? If there's no health, there is nothing else. It's great to have you guys leading this. David, it's great to have. David was involved in the first innovation bridge that the federal government of Mexico funded in 2018, 2019, and has stayed involved as a community leader, is now involved in our nonprofit as well on the board, and has been heavily involved back and forth. I appreciate the efforts that David has had, just because he's been such a leader in the whole, not just in healthcare, but on really driving this concept of loose connections that really solve problems for people and actually, take care of their health. Thank you for doing that, David. What I want to do now is go to Celia in Hungary, and we're going to stay on this theme of healthcare. Celia, what are you up to?
Okay, just some background. I am a medical doctor, and I'm also in Austin. So I live in two locations, in Austin and in Hungary. Currently, I'm in Budapest, Hungary. So it's almost 6:45 here. So what we do is very closely linked to what David and Ignacio just mentioned. Basically, I sometimes call our company or myself, the new Agatha Christie Hercule Poirot, who is trying to investigate within medical data. So the medical data that Ignacio and David were mentioning, the EHR, so electronic health record, can be read by experts. It's called real-world evidence. And just to explain what is real-world evidence, 20 years ago, if a pharmaceutical company had to launch a new medicine, the cure of, let's say, cancer, then for them it was enough worldwide in a 7 billion population to prove for 200 patients. It doesn't work anymore because these clinical trials are not enough. Everybody's so different. So after a couple of medications had to be drawn back because they were just causing side effects like heart attack and so on and so forth, the health industry went toward real-world evidence, which means reading electronic health records. And this is what we do. So basically, we have two major areas. In Hungary, we are called medical scan. In the US, we are called RNA pharma. And we read medical data, we understand where are the doctors currently with a certain understanding of a new curement. Just imagine, medical field is one of the most rapidly growing ones. So there are daily thousands of new medical articles published, and there is no way any doctor can follow this. So we help in the education part. And what we are trying to do in Texas is, as mental health is a serious issue, our goal is to help general practitioners, hospital psychiatrists to have a better link and better understanding with what to do with the depressed, with the schizophrenic patient. And for that, we have also a software solution called My Click Doctor, which basically is a medical community where doctor and doctor can have a so-called consultation about a certain patient, and then they can agree.
Yeah, because a lot of times, from what I understand in talking to Celia in the past, a lot of times the one doctor that might be in the patient interface doesn't actually have the background and needs to do a call out to another doctor, right? Is that correct, kind of, as I understand it?
Yes, and additionally, the medical field is going to something so-called multidisciplinary understanding. So 20, 30 years ago, it was enough to have an internist, then they become oncologists. Now there are experts for breast cancer treatment. So if a doctor like that needs to meet with another one, let's say with how can I give this patient this medication? Will it cause any cardiac failure? The person needs to be linked to another specialist. So we do like a specialist team virtually, so they have the chance to meet with each other, sorry.
That's perfect. And one of the other things I want to say, just to illustrate this, and it's great to have so many of our other healthcare entrepreneurs represented in the studio audience, just from the standpoint of the possibilities. So one of the things that's interesting about Hungary is, as a country, they organized their data way earlier than any other country in the world, so that information about patients and outcomes and conditions could be discovered and all that sort of stuff. Will you say a little bit more about that, Celia? Because I just want to make sure we're advertising possible overlaps and edges that could be pulled into other collaborations. Say a little bit more. Why is it, what historically had Hungary do that then allowed you to put together the company that you did around that capability for real world evidence?
Okay, in Hungary, we only have one insurance company. So everybody goes through this one insurance company. So if you are a patient and you need to go to a hospital, to a general practitioner to purchase your medicine, all data is there. So I can very clearly tell anyone, anytime, what is, how many patients are with the previously mentioned breast cancer, what is the 5 years overall survival rate, and so on and so forth. And additionally, Hungary is part of the European Union. So this gives us a lot of opportunity to work together with other consortium in Holland. Recently, I met with some contacts at the Nordic countries, but with Spain or Italy also. And this type of data is like a gold mine. It's the future for developing artificial intelligence, because for artificial intelligence in the health industry, you need to have data. And other countries don't have, the same patient timeline, or how should I call it? So there is, if you change an insurance, or as David mentioned, I go to a private hospital to treat my whatever, and then I go to the GP to treat my depression, then these two data won't be linked to each other. But in Hungary, everything is one place.
That's beautiful. Well, so we'll get a chance to, in the health tech area of the community, I want to make sure that everyone that might want to interact around what Celia is talking about, there's a health tech channel. There's also a mental health tech channel as well there. What we'll do is, Celia, thank you. What we're going to do is, let me just ask real quick, if someone wanted to follow up with you, how would you like them to get a hold of you? Like inside the community, I'm going to suggest going into that one of those channels. But is there anything you'd like to say about go to medicalscan.hu or what would you like to say?
I like the idea of the Ignacio and David sharing their email address. So my email address is celia.blasaur. I will write it here in the team, but Blasaur as BLASSZAUER @medicalscan, medicalscan as you would write it, .hu for Hungary.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Celia. What we'll do now then is, I know that there's a little bit of a conversation starting between one of our health tech Zaras, Celia, and one of our ed tech Zaras, Denise, around the concept of mental health. So what we'll do is I'm going to ask Denise to say, tell us a little about what you're doing in ed tech, and then I'd love to have you share just a little bit about this mental health idea that might be carrying what Celia's doing and you doing together, just so that that's advertised to the network.
Okay, well, first of all, it's very nice to see Celia. We've been trying for about 3 weeks to get it together. We finally did, so hello. I am a retired teacher, counselor, principal. I am trained, I have a PhD in counseling psychology. And so I've done a lot of work with children and adults and all that kind of stuff. I'm working on a project that I call Fortified, which is a process that saves lives of kids of all ages. And it focuses on mental health, wellness, and safety. And we do challenges and choices and real life experiences and virtual experiences. I'm working on putting it in a digital format so that we can, families can go through the experiences, they can keep track of their progress in terms of, they use the social skills, they use the emotional, mental health skills, and shore those up so that they can see themselves in healthy ways and watch their progress. It's not a test score like that. It's a you started here and then you build on what you learn. It's like learning to ride a bike. First of all, you have to try it out and then you practice and then you do it some more. And this is a game format that families can do that connect. Each one finds their strengths. They each build either a virtual fort or a real fort or however they want to do it. And then you keep track of your progress over time. And then you just interact, you keep connecting, you go from dependent to independent to interdependent. And then the stuff that Celia is working on, I think is gold. I think that's just a gold mine. And we have that in education. We just have not had a way to track appropriately the formative stuff, the formative things that happen. We've gotten, wicked good at multiple choice testing. To do that you can do a randomized spot check to see how you're doing. That's what the National Assessment of Educational Progress does. But that's all it does. It doesn't say what the kids' strengths are. It doesn't teach. All it does is looks to see how many skills they have. And if they don't have any skills, it doesn't have a choice. Yeah. So,
yeah, I know it's
anyway,
interesting. When I guess that it's interesting because the thing that I think is, this is where I think there's a lot of power. Historically, why was Austin on the map? And so, since I'm a product of being an Austin entrepreneur, why was Austin on the map? It's because we were kind of the crossroads. If you've ever heard of South by Southwest, that kind of implies the crossroads that intersect through Austin. Part of what I see emerging in our community is this crossroads. Here's an ed tech professional and a doctor in the health tech, med tech areas that have a possibility of intersecting. And since it's around mental health, and there's a mental health crisis happening around the world after COVID, especially, not to mention, you know, the refugees that are fleeing around the world. I mean, it's so crisis needed. It's like, it's just, the main thing I want y'all to see is the possibility of that collaboration that starts between Denise and Celia, but I think actually affects a lot of other people across this whole screen. Anything else you'd like to say, Denise, for people to get a hold of you and or about other stuff that's happening?
Yes, I would like to say, first of all, my email that you can get right now is DENISEKERN@me.com. I promise I'm getting my website up and running. It should end up being Denise@fortified.com, but that's not functional yet. So, but I do have I have the page. It's just not
Got it.
functioning.
Well, and if
So I'm
nothing
doing
else,
that.
if nothing
Yeah.
else, I'm sure there's someone in our community that can actually help you knock that out. So don't be shy
Yeah.
about asking for or
Yeah.
requesting help for that. So
The other thing I see that entrepreneurs are needing, especially from the ed tech side, because we've been teachers, and teachers are entrepreneurs, they just didn't know it. We don't know how to do the patent. We don't know how to do the trademark. We don't know how to do the logo. We don't know that. And a lot of the techie people think it's just all you do is just push this button. Here you go. Well, I'm before the internet, so I need a little more background knowledge before I even know, to push the button. So I'm just going to speak up for the entrepreneurs that were entrepreneurs with kids or families
understood.
before the internet. Yeah. Okay.
Jello, make sure that we should get Bill Halsey from our one of the IP attorneys we've worked with to join us about that. That'd be great. I know we're coming up on our time, and I want to go ahead and have a few other people just do like kind of a speed round. So part of what we'll do, we've had a couple of people step out, and I know that we've got people watching. I've got a monitor over here about watching online. I have not been able to pay attention to because I'm only on these tiny screens today because I'm not in my studio. I apologize to anyone who's watching the streams that we can't see I can't respond to your questions there. I'll ask Jello to do that. But in just wrapping up, let's do a speed round real quick. I'd like to hear from Kabir, then Angela, then Alessandro, then Sebastian. Masuma, if you want to say something, Ravi, if you want to say something. Let's start with Kabir, who is in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, one of the guys that was one of my sponsors of the trip to Tashkent. He's also involved in the Kitab project. Kabir, how are you doing?
Oh, excellent moment, very much. Do you listen to me perfectly?
You cut out a little bit, but I can hear you now.
No, now it's okay.
Yes, yeah, go right ahead. Tell us, what do you work? You're in Tashkent. You're working with me on the Kitab project. Tell, just so people have kind of a quick sense of who you are and what you're working on.
Yes,
Tell us.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy to announce that last week we have opened representative company of TechCrunch Austin in Tashkent. This name is TechCrunch Uzbekistan. I feel like I'm a part of this TechCrunch.
Yeah, no, it's exciting because Kabir was called me from the office, or from the office where you get the incorporation. And he was like, okay, I'm about to push the button and stuff like that. So we now have, it's going to be techranch.uz, right?
Yes.
And part of the idea is to be able to like have projects and deployments. Like I can imagine that we're going to see at some point in the future technology that's coming from Mexico or perhaps Honduras, not just the United States, plants there. And then Uzbekistan has quite a few brilliant scientists, engineering types, like they're doing some really advanced things in logistics and artificial intelligence. Kabir, anything else you'd like to say real quick as we go around and do kind of this final little thing?
Yes, of course. Only 2 words about Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan, Tashkent is one of the best place in Central Asia, both to live and work. And there are lots of benefits for investors or any joint ventures foreign companies. And also, I'm very happy we are going to build a venture bridge with Kevin and his company TechRanch between Texas and Uzbekistan. Our Kitab project is only the beginning of our big projects, and I'm happy to be involved in this.
I'm excited to be working with you as well. Kabir, by the way, has been one of the best hosts that I've ever had around the world. And for a subsequent newsletter, I'm going to be telling a little bit of his story and part of the experience that I had in October. And one of the reasons that I said yes to the work we're doing together. So Kabir, great to see you. Thank you for staying up so late. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit more formal introduction to the Kitab project very soon, and we'll have Kabir be a part of that. So thank you. We'll keep on hopping around. I mentioned to Angela, I haven't seen Angela Pakzia in a long time. She was involved in Bootstrap Austin, the organization that I mentioned earlier. Angela, what are you working on? We didn't even get a chance to talk. You just reached out and said, "Hey, what are you up to? What are you working on?"
Well, I last time we spoke, I think afterwards I ended up starting a nonprofit. I was involved in that for a long time until the pandemic, and then I decided to switch paths, and now I'm currently with a company called Water IQ Technologies. It's a fairly startup company. It's been around for a year and a half. It's taken an existing technology, which is ultrasound, that goes into water to help control and combat algae and prevent biofilm. But we're taking it to another next generation of product and doing a lot of exciting product development in that. And I'm in charge of really creating a sales and distribution network in Latin America. So I've already got some channels created in Mexico and Chile. The product is so important with the current climate change and the issues of algae, because algae obviously has a lot of toxins that can create a lot of problems. Sorry, my dog has now decided to make his appearance. He's making some noises, but no, this is it's exciting. The applications are huge: agriculture, wineries, water treatment, for drinking water, for sanitation, wastewater, cooling towers. I mean, you name it, anywhere you have issues of water sitting in a warmer climate, there are algae problems and biofilm problems, and we're here. So thank you.
Perfect. Well, and so certainly since you're involved in doing things in Latin America, obviously since we have, let's see, Colombia, Mexico, Honduras represented right now on the program in the studio audience alone, I'm sure that there will be some natural crossover. Is there any way that if someone wanted to connect with you outside of just the community.techranchaustin.com or techranch.com? I'm not sure if you're even on the community site yet, but Jello, make sure that she's on there. And but how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, Angela at Water IQ Tech. So you can on LinkedIn, Water IQ Technologies, but you can also go Angela at wateriqtech.com.
Perfect.
So either way, yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, well, Angela, we'll get a chance to catch up one-on-one again as well. I look forward to that. So I know we're coming to the end of our time. Alessandro just raised his hand, and we're again, Bart Bond from the Austin Technology Incubator introduced me to Alessandro. Alessandro, what are you working on?
So, hi, everybody. Actually, I'm an international student from Italy. And as Kevin said, I had the chance to get in touch with TechCrunch through Bart Bond, who is a professor of mine of entrepreneurial finance. Actually, at the moment, I'm not an entrepreneur yet, meaning that I'm working back in Italy on a student fund. Actually, is a student, which is backed by a Swiss fund, and it's completely managed by students. So the funds actually come from LPs that were arranged by this Swiss fund, but it's the student that actually does all the job. And yeah, so I'm actually here. I'm trying to connect with the Austin startup ecosystem to get some fresh ideas, and also to, kind of get in touch with a different modus operandi from the European one. So it's been amazing to learn from all your projects, and yeah, to get such insights.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad I know that you and I hadn't really got a chance to connect one-on-one yet as well. Jello will work that out. Make sure that Jello has all your contact information and stuff like that. A lot of times, since all I'm doing is like making all these connections around the world, a lot of times I ignore my email box. But thank you for being here. Thanks for hopping on, because I know next week we're gonna talk one-on-one. So I look forward to that. Thank you for being here. We'll keep on hopping. Vladimir, you're here. Vladimir's in the house from Honduras.
Yes, hello. Thanks, Kevin. Nice meeting you, everybody. So I've been connecting talent from Latin America, specifically Central America, with US companies, talent like software engineers, designers. So, and I want to go beyond that. So I want to connect our kids, our children with higher education systems in the US, leveraging the blockchain technology, right? VR technology. So I'm a strong believer that one of the pain points that we have in developing countries is education, right? So I'm going to be working on a proof of concept of what I would like to call a decentralized education system for countries like us in Latin America. I'm actually just moved to the States. I'm in Fort Worth, actually, and I'm close to Austin. So
perfect. Well, I tell you what, make it a point that if you're not in the ed tech area, the channel on the community, make sure that you do a shout out there, so that educators like Denise can connect in with you. There's a number of different educators there, and obviously a lot of what's happening. In fact, there's also Stephen Galbraith, who's based out of Florida, I think would be interested in talking to you as well. He's in that channel. And the main idea is like this whole change of the education system. In some ways, decentralization, I think, is going to solve a lot of the problems. It won't solve all the problems, but it'll solve a lot of the problems. We need to figure out how to have like that decentralization component. So I'd love to have you do a shout out for that. How do people get a hold of you?
So you can look for me on LinkedIn, Vladimir Lopez, or you can send me an email to vladimir@backtoonstudio.art. It's a little bit complicated, but I will put it in the chat now.
That sounds great. Well, I tell you what, and then for anyone that wants to find the one thread that you guys can find each other on, the Venture Outfitter Weekly, there's a channel on the community that I'm going to ask Jello to link as many of you as possible there, so that if people make comments on that thread around this program, when we publish this program there, you'll be able to find each other. That way, none of you send emails to me saying, hey, that guy from Honduras that's got the distributed education system, how do I get a hold of him? I'll be like, hey, go look at that link. I'm getting smarter, by the way. Thank you, Vladimir. It's great to have you here, and good to see that you're doing good. Okay, well, what I want to do is I'm going to actually ask Jello to tell us how the Philippines is doing. Sebastian and Masuma, if either one of y'all wanted to talk about either Colombia or Uzbekistan, or Kitab specifically for Masuma, let me know. Okay, Sebastian says yes, thumbs up. Jello, go ahead and tell us about the Philippines first.
Hey everyone, it's nice meeting all of you. Most of you I just get to communicate via email, and it's nice to see all of you together in one screen. So basically, I am working remotely from the Philippines. I'm not going to tell you what time it is now, but it's pretty late here. So basically, post-COVID, I think one of the industries that have really popped up in in our country, in the Philippines, one of our greatest treasures probably is our manpower. So a lot of Filipinos are really excelling in remote work all over the world. So usually you'll find a Filipino working on something on all different areas of the world. So I think that's what I can share. So if you are looking for somebody, I think one advantage also is the language, because the Philippines is very westernized. Aside from and even the culture, so it's not a lot of adjustments, but working remotely for the past year has really opened up a lot of ideas for me. And yeah, so if you're trying to look for anybody, I think you can send me a message. I could connect you with someone for sure.
Yeah, so that's partially the thing that a lot of times entrepreneurs never imagine that they could get a little bit of help. Jello joined me about a year ago, and we started out with just a few hours a week, and now more than 40 it seems like. And it's been really powerful just because for those of y'all that know me, you probably know that I'm dyslexic, and just being able to, like, as the network has grown, just the sheer volume of text that has to be managed is insane. And so he's really helped me do that a lot. So whether it's some of the other projects, and for those of y'all that don't know this as well, I've spoken with a number of the high level ministers in the Filipino government. We're going to actually we have a professor out of the University of Arizona who Dr. Joe Coelho, that we've worked with before in the past, who's Filipino by birth and lives in Arizona and does projects around the world. There's going to be ties there as well. So whether it's as individual, finding someone to help, like as an assistant, like Jello does for me, or something else. If you have questions about that, Jello knows a lot of really great people. Reach out to him and take advantage of that. All right, so we're going over our time, but we have a Colombian that I want to hear from really quick before we close things out. Sebastian, can you come on to share your screen or share your camera? I don't know if you can or not, but yeah, please do. Let's see. We see, yeah.
Beautiful Austin and nothing else, of course.
Yeah, I know. We don't see you yet. Are you there somewhere?
I don't know what happened.
That's funny.
Oh, there you go. I forgot to.
All right, there you are. There you are.
I forgot
¿Cómo estás, amigo?
Whatever, protect. Hi, everyone. I'm from Colombia, as Kevin mentioned, but I'm in Austin as well, suffering from the cold weather and the falling trees all over the place. So Kevin, we haven't talked in a while, but basically I'm keep doing my work on cybersecurity and see how we can bridge that as well with the metaverse that is in my heart. So basically, I'm working in several projects to see how we can mix together the cybersecurity aspect and bring it to the metaverse. Especially because I'm working with two different teams. Kevin knows that I have been working with many teams from Latin America, from Colombia, Chile, Argentina, all over the place, like software developers. But in the end, after we talk, I definitely go that, okay, VR, metaverse, and cybersecurity have been the ones that I like the better. So that's where I'm focusing my efforts right now. And I'm going to put my email in the chat if anyone wants to talk about it. But basically, it's segomez@torusconsulting.com. So we have to catch up again, Kevin, and have some drink and some coffee.
That would be great. I would love that. I appreciate you being here today because, yeah, again, Sebastian was Sebastian helped me really build the first connection into Colombia, and so part of the work that I didn't have to sell him on the idea about building connections around the world. That part of what we do is exactly that, because that was part of the work that he naturally brought into. So his email address is there. We'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. Any other things you want to say, Sebastian? Any calls to action or anything like that? Requests?
I mean, right now is more than ever, there is an opportunity to bring in, bridging together the different countries, near shore companies and bringing the international companies offshore in different time zones. So I think there's a big opportunity of what you're doing, especially, helping social change in the world. So I'm happy that you're still doing this. So I always admire your mission from TechCrunch. So
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. Yeah, well, you guys make it fun, especially on like a day like today. I tell you what, since we are a little bit over time, I'll say thank you to Sebastian. I'll say thank you to everyone that presented and stuff like that. I know that there's a lot of activities now that we have a really solid community site. Like Slack was always kind of painful. Slack was always kind of painful because it got really expensive and it's hard to use and you had to know their software. And if you didn't know that, it was kind of a pain in the butt. But we now have a really good part of the reason that I've got this renewed vigor about driving these type of interactions where everyone can kind of see, like when you start seeing the number of faces and the number of countries and the number of concern areas that are represented by us that were just in this program, and not even David from the Czech Republic, as an example, had to leave early, and Kim from Washington State, who's doing other healthcare things, had to leave early. And there's a lot of other people though that weren't able to be on Zoom today. When you really start thinking about what's possible, that two of you could just say, "Hey, I've got this idea," and the other person has, the other side of the coin of solving some fundamental problem. It's pretty freaking amazing about what we can do. And as we start taking on problem sets, like as an example, concerning Kitab in Uzbekistan, with the support of the governor there saying, "Hey, we want to go solve all these different issues." Governor Utam had reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're having a power crisis." By the way, Matsuma, make sure you tell them we had a power crisis here in Austin today. But that being said, we'll figure out how to solve both of them. He was saying let's bring in these new technologies, and there's this fresh, really eager openness. And this is not just about Kitab, but there's other parts of the world as well. As I start traveling again in March, I'll be pointing this out a lot more. But the idea is that we can actually bring these technologies to bear. We can solve these problems together. We can use Hungarian insight about data and Mexican marketplace to actually drive stuff in other places in the world. That's the vision. I tell you what, though, we're going to bring today's show to a close, and I'm going to try to figure out how to push the right button so that I can actually share my screen just to finish this up. It's kind of difficult on this tiny little screen to do this, but what we'll do is we'll go back to the slides. The one thing I want to make sure I say is if you want to get involved in some way, shape, or form in the TechCrunch community, really there's also different places to connect in. Go to techcrunch.com/connect. There's a place to sign up to say, if there's a country that wasn't represented today and you're like, "Hey, I'm from this country. I might live in Texas. I might live in some other country." You hear my voice and you're in some country that was not represented today, and you'd like to connect your country or your part of the world into this conversation, there's a place to sign up as a country manager. There is a place to sign up if you have a mentor background and you'd like to mentor these startups and get connected into the community. There's a place to sign up for that as well. There's a place to sign up on the newsletter. There's a place to actually apply to be in the community. The application process for the community, really, we're just wanting to make sure that we don't have bots or people who are trying to just spam and stuff like that. So go ahead and go to techcrunch.com/connect and let us know what's going on and how you'd like to get involved. If you have things for me personally, the main thing is I'd like to start having more of these conversations in the community site. The powerful thing about the community site is that way it stops being a point-to-point connection that's dependent on me as the hub of a lot of the conversations. You're going to see a lot more activity in the community site We were really shy about testing out the software before we got very far because we started Mighty Networks that didn't work for us. And so I said, before we actually throw more software at you guys, we're going to really try it out. So we've tried it out now. We've polished it. It's really working for us. Let's go ahead and amplify that. So make sure you take your conversations there, and we'll share them there. I'm hoping that you can see my screen okay. Jello, is that showing up? Is TechCrunch like
right now? It's I think it's blocked. Can you try that again?
Let's try it again. I noticed that for whatever reason it didn't go to the share. Okay, there it is. So techcrunch.com/connect. Well, and I tell you what, we're on our final slide for the day. You know, part of the thing, we're here is a group of community of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values. Let's go change the world for the better together. Thank you all for your time today. Stick around, get involved in the community. Let's go change some lives and make the world a better place. Thank you all.